I was staying at my friend's studio apartment, and the three of us were sleeping. My two friends are named Adam and Johnny, and I've known them all my life. Anyway, after a night out, I wake up and see someone facing away from me, doing something at the sink. Now this person just looks like the back of Johnny. So I say, "Hey Johnny, could you grab me a drink?" Johnny pops up to my right and says, "I'm over here." And I think to myself, oh well, it must be Adam then. "Adam, could you get me a drink?" Then Adam pops up next to Johnny and says, "I'm over here." Now it takes me a second for my mind to put two and two together. I say, "Well, who the heck is that guy?" And I point towards him. Then all three of us watch as this person slowly walks away from the sink to the corridor, which leads to the door. Now I can't actually see the door from where I am, but none of us heard it open or shut. I fell asleep again, presuming that it was some sort of dream. When I woke up, I tell my friends about the dream, and they all go white as a sheet, as they remember me asking them to get a drink and then seeing someone at the sink as well.
Two.
One time when I was 17, a few friends and I were out at the beach making dry ice bombs in the middle of the night. It was probably midnight or so. We were quite delinquent back then. There were about 5 or 6 of us, and we were just chilling, having a good time, trying to make potholes in the ground with dry ice bombs in the sand. It was quite a foggy night, which isn't too unusual, considering that I live in the northwest coast of Oregon, and it rains here 300 days out of the year. After 30 minutes or so of being rambunctious teenagers, we decided to walk down the beach a bit. After probably 10 to 15 minutes of walking, we hear a strange, scratching, grinding sound, and stop and listen. Sooner than 20 seconds later, a tall figure emerges from the fog, adjacent to the ocean, but between us in the ocean. This guy had to be at least 8 feet tall, and he was dragging a chain. Not just your average chain, but a massive chain that looked like it was used for an anchor or something. The rings were probably 8 to 12 inches long, a piece, and it looked like they had to be at least an inch in diameter as well. Now this chain wasn't short by any means. It was probably 40 to 50 feet long, and this dude was just dragging it in the sand behind him, in the middle of the night. We all sat there silently, and I got the biggest shiver down my spine, and all my hair stood on end, and my breath seemed to escape me. We gathered, watching the figure cross our path and make its way up the beach. It and the chain slowly faded out of sight. Well, that was creepy as hell, I thought. We then continued back down the beach to a shipwreck called the Peter Iredale, which is about eroded by now, and we took in the cool sea spray and enjoyed the ominous whooshing of the serene ocean waves. We toss a couple of dry ice bombs into the water and head back to our car, which we were parked probably half a mile up the shore. As we were walking, we hear that noise again. My heart thumps and I get the cold sweats. It was that thing again, trudging that damn chain up the beach. It had to have been the exact same place where we saw it the first time. There were no drag marks in front of him, no footsteps, no indication that anyone had laid foot on the ground in front of him in the path that he previously walked. The sand was dry, and it wasn't washed over by waves or anything of the sort. We watch him for a moment out of curiosity as we wonder what is going on. We stood there dumbfounded, watching the figure trudge through the sand with this unfathomably massive chain dragging behind him. It stopped dragging the chain and stared directly at us, piercing our soul and the essence of our being. We stood there, jaw dropped, staring back at the shadowy figure. It begins to slowly march towards us, and we book it through the sand. I have never run so fast in my entire life. We all pile into the car. My friend turns the engine on, and we floor it out of there, easily hitting 80 miles per hour on the straight stretch of the access road. Absolutely hauled serious ass out of there. The entire time I was staring out the back window of the car, some reason expecting it to terminate or after us and catch up. Strangest, most heart-wrenchingly terrifying thing I have ever experienced. None of us were on any drugs, as we were all straight-edge kids, clean as a whistle. A week or so later, a friend of ours who wasn't there with us that night told me that people used to practice black magic in the dunes there, and there were artifacts of demonology and inverted crosses scattered about. I called him a liar on his accusations of such occurrences. It turns out that it was true. I went to my mom and asked her about it, and she said that she had heard similar stories. So, naturally, we looked into it a bit, and then we went out to search for the black magic devil-worshipping sites. We were able to find some inverted crosses, which were made of some sort of metal that was all but rusted over, and concrete blocks, probably a cubic meter in size, in a few different places, holes bored through them and metal rings inserted through them, as if to be an anchor point. I put two and two together and theorized that that chain was at one point connected to those blocks in the dunes, for Lord knows what kind of purpose. I assumed that creature was of black magic demonology, and I will never set foot in those cursed dunes ever again. Three. I had just turned 22, and my parents had sold their house and purchased a place out in the country. On the property there was a big shed not far from the house that I decided to turn into my place. Now, I felt kind of uncomfortable in the shed sometimes, but my dog kept me company, so it wasn't so bad. Anyway, I had been there maybe 2 weeks, and one night I'm on the computer. My dog is asleep at my feet, and I need to pee, so I get up and go outside to go. It's a beautiful clear night, and the stars were incredible. The next thing, I hear the shed door slam behind me. I turn immediately and try to open it, but it won't budge. Now, from inside the shed, I can hear my dog start to growl, quietly at first, and then get louder. And now he's barking, and I'm panicking trying to get the door open. I must mention that I am 6'5" and well built. I play sports, etc. But even ramming my full weight into the door won't open it, and I'm really panicking now as my dog's barks turned into whines, then whimpering, then silence, and with all my weight I slam into the door, and suddenly it flies open. The light is off inside now, and it's pitch black, and the light wouldn't turn back on, and I am in complete darkness. I can't see my dog anywhere, and I stumble around trying to find a torch. Finally, I find it and pick it up and turn on my torch, and I wasn't prepared for what I'd see next. My dog had literally squashed itself into the furthest, darkest corner of the room, eyes closed and shaking violently. I immediately moved towards him, and as soon as I got within reach of him, he leapt at me into my arms, and he wouldn't move. I picked him up, and I swear I've never ran so fast in my damn life. I never stepped foot in that shed ever again, and my dog wouldn't even go near that part of the property. I still don't know what happened in the shed that night, but I'll never forget it. There's this creepy cat that hangs out at my house that doesn't actually exist. Several of us have seen this cat walk into the living room and then proceed to just disappear. It happens so regularly that one of us will nonchalantly say that they saw the gray one again, which is referring to the ghost cat. The cat doesn't do much. It just walks around freaking us out. Our actual cats hate him though. Sometimes the cat walks around looking very angry. I don't know where this cat came from or why he likes to hang around my house. In the year 1996, I was 7 years old. My mother and I were living in this run-down white house. The paint outside was chipping, and the front porch wasn't much better. The house itself was on a large plot of land. I remember mowing that beast a couple of times. It was an experience that would take hours. Let's not mention the hornet's nest behind the house in a bush. All in all, it wasn't the worst place to live, but it certainly wasn't the best. You see, this house had a basement. The door leading down was just to the left of the back door, seemingly crushed between the wall and the refrigerator. You could go down there if you want. I never did. I could never bring myself to. Not once do I remember anyone else going down there either. Well, one morning, I woke up the same time as my cousin, whose mother owned the house, and we start playing around. I eventually end up in a closet upstairs, hiding from him, knowing, as any 7-year-old would, that I could never be found. He never did find me. He never needed to. As I sat in almost complete darkness, surrounded by clothes hanging above my head and others at my feet, I felt a deep chill race down my body and froze. I was suddenly scared and I couldn't explain why, so I began to glance around. It didn't take long for my head to snap behind me, and to the left, where, at about 6 feet up, there was a face. As I looked at it, a smile shot across it, and I swear, to this day, that it was the smile that caused me to shoot out of that closet, down the stairs, and right into my cousin who I'd tried to explain things to. He went up and checked and found nothing. I will say that it wasn't until years later, when my mom and I were talking, that she mentioned how she hated that place, how much it creeped her out. Thinking back, I can never remember seeing many animals around it, though I suppose that it is better than looking out your window to see at least 70 crows sitting on the lines and branches around your house, all facing inward and not making one sound. That is the sight that woke me up out of a dead sleep and was, at the time, the scariest experience of my life. Thank you so much for watching and supporting the show. If you have a story to share, send us an email, like us on Facebook, share, like, and subscribe.